Cooper. Cooper with a great chance. Cooper must make it 4. He does.
The Full-Time Review Show is brought to you and supported by Saltire Energy, the global market leader in specialist drilling equipment rental. And also by Craig International, a truly global company with 10 offices strategically placed around the world. The future of global procurement is right here. And to Steadfast Scotland, who have newly come on board with ABTV, manufacturers of high-integrity stud bolts and special fasteners. They are globally recognised as your market leader. My thanks to Scott McLeod and to Brian Sherwood for their continued support. These were the scenes at the beach yesterday as the weather took hold of your weekend back home. It was blustery at Pittodrie. It was windy, but the fans did their best to do their part, but we could only come away with a 1-1 draw. St Johnstone taking the lead in the first half, Leighton Clarkson equalising 10 minutes after the restart. 15,880 were in attendance, which is actually our lowest attendance of the season so far. So let's put it into context. So with Rangers comfortably beating Ross County today, they have only gone 2 points behind us now, and more importantly, they have a game in hand as well. The gap between us and Celtic, unfortunately, has increased tenfold. Hi everybody, how you doing? A very warm welcome to Ali Beg ABTV this Sunday night after our draw with St Johnstone yesterday. So this is the Full-Time Review Show, and this is your opportunity to tell me what you thought about yesterday's performance. I've got a feeling tonight we're going to be a wee bit busy. So wherever you are in the world, you could be in Australia, you could be in America, you could be in Scandinavia, the Middle East, you could even be somewhere as random as New Barnet. You are absolutely more than welcome. Thanks for tuning in. Come and have your say. I'm really looking forward to reading out your comments tonight. As always, keep them clean and respectful. And if you're going to chat amongst yourselves, please be nice to each other. It's the only thing that we ask on this platform. So, before we get into it, let me give you my tuppence. So I put out on social media this morning about the fans' reaction at half-time, which I personally did not welcome. Look, I get it. We're all Aberdeen fans. We all want to win every single football match that we play. Of course we do. And our expectations have risen because of the phenomenal start to the season that we've had. So quite naturally, we're going to be disappointed when we slightly come off track. It's winless in 5 now. But this is what I will say. I don't think booing is going to do us as a fan base and the team any good whatsoever. I think it's a very negative reaction, which will filter down to the players. And I'm sure that you've all seen Yimmy and the players come out and say how vital the support has been this season so far, and how they bounce off that energy and that reaction from the crowd. And it does help them. They've come out and publicly said it does help them. So with us going through this blip, and thank God we've got 10 days now. Usually I wouldn't welcome 10 days, but I absolutely do at the moment. It's absolutely vital that we get behind them even more so than we were when we were winning. And look, for me, it was a small minority. It was just a small minority. It most definitely wasn't the majority of fans yesterday. And from the reaction that I've had on socials, a lot of fans were very disappointed with that reaction. And it's that old saying, isn't it? You've got to have failure to have success. And Yimi has come out. I've got a couple of quotes from him after the game yesterday, where he's spoken about not panicking, continue to believe in the process. It's a 3-year plan, not a 1-season plan. So we have to show patience as well. And by showing patience, for me, the best way to do that is by showing our support within the stadium and from afar. So look, I absolutely get the frustration. I was just as frustrated with the performance yesterday. I personally thought it was probably, arguably, the worst of the season so far, bar the Scottish League Cup semi-final. I expected a little bit more and was disappointed that we didn't come away with the win. But where I will absolutely give credit where credit is due, I thought St Johnstone were excellent yesterday. And we knew it was going to be a difficult game because with their new manager, he's got them drilled, he's got them disciplined, he's got them compact, and he's got them very difficult to play through. And Andrew Budge, our analyst, has spoken to me today. We've recorded the interview, and we've got some examples of where it just didn't quite work yesterday. So I really hope, as always, you really enjoy that segment. So first and foremost, the gaffer made 3 changes to the side. So Shayden Morris came in for Duke, Leighton Clarkson came in for Topi Keskinen, and Jack Milne came in for Devlin. And just a wee word on Jack Milne, as to come in at fullback, even the manager said that his preferred position is centre-back. And I thought he was absolutely magnificent yesterday. I thought he was one of our players of the match. I thought he was absolutely outstanding. I thought Jimmy McGarry put another very decent shift in at fullback as well. So that was the 11 that the manager picked. So this is what he had to say after the game. I'll tell you what we'll do. Before we do that, let's give you the match stats, and then we'll get Andrew on, and then we can read out Yimi's quote. So these are the match stats from the game. So 56.8% of possession. 7 shots to their 6. Only 2 were on target to their 3. Touches in the opposite box, 10 more than them. Successful passes, which was way up from midweek, 419 in total. So that was a vast improvement on midweek. Right. So what we'll do now is let's get Andrew on. Let's go through this analytical segment for you so that you can react to it off the back. And then we'll get Yimi on, get his thoughts, and then we'll start introducing your thoughts to the show, and then we'll just spend the rest of the show going through your thoughts. So as always, please welcome to the review show, Andrew Budge. Hi Andrew, lovely to see you as always. Thank you so much for jumping on. Okay, before we get into the analysis, just give us your general thoughts on how you felt we played yesterday.
Yeah, pretty disappointing, to be honest. You may mentioned the team lacked a bit of rhythm, and I think that sums up perfectly. We didn't maintain the same level of performance as we did on Wednesday. Unfortunately, I think the standards just fell below where we expect and where we have shown for most of the season so far. So disappointing, but credit St Johnstone, they look pretty well organised and made it difficult for us to play through them.
Yeah, I said at the top of the show that I thought we needed to give St Johnstone more praise. Okay, so let's get into the analysis. So we've got some XG examples, which we'll talk about a little bit later, and we'll sort of explain a little bit more what XG is all about and how it works. But first, we've got 4 examples that you're going to take us through. The first one being that you pinpointed during the game that there was a lack of short options for us.
Yeah, so overall, I thought our build-up just lacked some structure, to be honest. From the graphic that we brought up on screen, you can see a really vast space in the centre of the pitch with no Aberdeen players occupying it. And what that shows is nobody's coming deep, nobody's giving a short option at that point in time. You can actually see Clarkson far end of the pitch, almost running in behind, which we're totally not playing to his sort of his strengths there. He's very good on the ball, and we'd like to see him picking up the ball in those sort of spaces that we've highlighted there. So Johnson looked very well organised, and they're not giving us much space in midfield, but it's just a lot of square passes, and it's just unfortunately nobody coming deep to try and shift their block and their defensive shape about. So yeah, it was a frustrating one.
You just mentioned square passes there. Does that, because that's happening, does that almost force us to play the square ball? Because I must admit, yesterday I was getting slightly frustrated at the amount of times we were playing the square ball.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. From the second example, you can see it really is a lot of square passing options. In this case, you can see Milne. He's sort of square to, I think it's Rubicic is in possession,
Mhm.
so he probably should be holding a really much higher position, like Nicky Devlin's done for a lot of the season. I mean, he did that for the goal. He pushed up higher, which is great, which I'm sure we'll come on to. But he it's probably just him settling into the role because he's obviously not a natural fullback. It was interesting to hear him say he actually thinks he's a centre back
Mm.
in by trade. But yeah, a lot of really square passes. And I think even from the example you've got up on screen there, you see Shinnie so deep as well. It's almost like we could maybe not have the two sitters because they're almost playing square passes to each other in a lot of cases. Maybe if we have one sitter and two may push further higher up, a lot like kind of Celtic do, they only have McGregor as the deeper pivot. So maybe it's sort of food for thought. But yeah, the square passes led to us hitting it long, unfortunately, because we just didn't really have a huge idea of how to break down St Johnson.
I noticed online this morning that Kevin Nisbet has come in for not a great deal of criticism, but in some quarters people have been a little bit questionable of his performances since he's come to Aberdeen. But yesterday, you've picked out an example where he's almost forced to come really deep just to be able to get into the game.
Yeah, it really does say a lot, to be honest, about how badly we were stifled in possession. It says a lot if he's dropping, as we can see here, deep into our own half. That's not where we want Kevin Nisbet at all. He's a very good penalty box striker. It just says a lot that he feels the need to come this deep to try and get the ball because he's obviously not getting the service up front. So again, clear signs that our build up yesterday just wasn't working because we couldn't get the ball to him and further upfield. But I do think at times he was maybe guiltier, and a lot of players were guilty of almost standing in St Johnstone players' sort of cover shadows, so there's not really options for passes. And I think maybe Nisbet was partially doing that yesterday. But yeah, it says a lot if he's dropping that deep, and we want to get him the ball much further upfield.
Thankfully, though, in the second half for the equaliser, it was so much more positive.
Yeah, yeah. As we can see in the example, fullbacks, as I said earlier, this time they're pushed way higher in possession. It gives us more passing options. You can see Jack Milne in particular, he's much higher and in a central sort of space. So what that does is that creates the passing angle for Duke because a great ball from Palaversa, but he can almost play the ball straight through Jack Milne. If Jack Milne here in this example is sort of left back position like he was earlier in the examples, that passing angle to Duke isn't available because one of the St Johnson players will shift over and he just completely blocks the passing angle. But because he stands there, we can almost pass through him, which is a lot better. We see Devlin doing that a lot, inverting like that, or Mackenzie on the other side sometimes. But yeah, a lot better examples of build up in the second half. But maybe the final ball, much like Wednesday, just maybe wasn't there for the second half.
Okay, let's talk about these XG examples that we've got. But first of all, just for people who might not be over familiar with XG, can you just explain exactly what it is, first of all?
Yeah, sure. So effectively what it shows is the quality of the chances that you're creating. So rather than looking at it as just like a shot or a shot on target, the higher number you have indicates the higher quality of chance and how much more likely you think you would be to score from that opportunity. And that can be, as we'll go on to, that could be split between open play XG or set play XG. So in cumulatively, it would be sort of the higher the number, the more chances or the better quality of chances you've had from open play or from set plays.
Okay, because again, one of the aspects of our game yesterday where I was getting really frustrated was I just felt that from our set pieces, we were really poor. And where in the recent past, if we have not been great with our set pieces, we have compensated for that with open play. But you've been able to pick out examples here where actually, in the recent past, this is not working at all, is it?
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It really does show a sort of dip in form in our part. Sometimes you can have games where you're creating a lot of chances and you sometimes don't get the points, or you might only get a draw. But the sort of underlying numbers we can see here do kind of point towards a real dip in form on our part. Both in the charts you're going to pull up, we can see the blue line tracks our set play XG or our open play XG, and obviously it fluctuates across the season, but in particular the past 3 games, both open play XG and set play XG have fallen below not only our average but the league average, which does say quite a lot, to be honest. It really points to the sort of difficulty we're having in either breaking teams down or creating chances. If we're looking at earlier in the season, you could see some spikes, maybe sort of halfway through the season so far, you can see spikes in our open play XG. So where we might have had dips earlier in the season that we weren't creating many opportunities from set plays, we were still actually creating quite a lot from open play. So we could kind of rely on that as a sort of crux. But when both of them have dropped like they have in the past 3 games, it really doesn't give us much opportunity to score goals. And that's kind of what we're seeing there.
Okay. Andrew, thank you so much, as always, for coming on. So we've got a bit of a break now until we face Hibs again at Pittodrie. Yeah. So enjoy the next few days, and we'll see you for the post-game after the Hibs match.
Yep, looking forward to it. Thanks, Ali.
Thanks, mate. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you, as always, Andrew. Right, so this is what the manager had to say after the game. He said, I think our performance today was not the best we have made this season. We did not have the energy that we want to play with or the intensity. So far, we've had a good season, but we're having a difficult period right now. The most important thing is where we are at the end of the season. Right now, we have to live this and go onto the training pitch and work and come out the other side. He finished off by saying, and this is really important, we have to stick together and we have to try and push our limits and be better every single week. We have to stick together. For me, that's the most important message that he's putting out. And when he says that, he means everybody. Right? It's about time we got you on. Richard McMillan says, good evening, Ali and co. Second half is the way that we should be playing. Gordon Keith Ritchie says, good evening all. We were poor in the first half, better in the second, but we need a 90-minute performance. But after last season, we're in a much better place and we will get back on the winning trail. Gavin Wilson said, I've got no issues with Yimmy, but where's the intensity and press? First half, I watched Shinnie wander over to his right when attacking with the ball still in our half. A huge gap with no Dons players there. Gavin Wilson comes back to say, it seems to me that midfield is a weakness. David Swinton says, we were stronger in the second half. My goodness, those weather conditions were terrible. Palaversa, again, immense, wonderful passer of a football. Kaiser has said, oh dear, what an abomination of a match that was. The good start is now null and void. We've managed to let a commanding 9-point lead over Sevco evaporate in 2 weeks. He goes on to say, Nielsen played the full 90 minutes on Wednesday, as did Shinnie. Surely Palaversa's got to start yesterday, and as usual, Tallene has to change things at half-time to try and change the game. I must admit, I was surprised that he started Nielsen or Shinza. I had in my predicted lineup that I thought he might have even tried Polvara, who wasn't even in the squad yesterday, which was also a bit of a surprise. So, yeah, I was also a wee bit surprised about that. Leon has said, tired performance similar to the semi-final against Celtic. Too many players has had an off day. Shinnie and Nielsen been great, but running on empty. Time to give Ante and Dante some game time together. It would be quite interesting to see that, wouldn't it? Al Hay is on. Hi, Al. He says, the disappointment of the 3 away games and now the narrow defeat by Celtic. Everyone expected a turnaround against St Johnstone, but the lack of intensity was obvious from the start. Kaiser wants to know why Sokler and Ambrose were left on the bench yesterday. So, Gavin Wilson, in response to the fans that booed, this is what he said. The fans who booed had every right. The team set a standard with the first 11 games, then have let it slip badly. The disappointment the fans felt was then justified. Can't be bothered has said, Nisbet has to be binned. We'd rather Sokler or Ambrose, or even Babbage. It's like playing with 10 men when he starts. Gavin Wilson says, was it not just one shot the whole of the first half? That's correct, Gavin. Kaiser comes back to say, I'll say it now, Rubicic and Malloy are nowhere near the standard required. Every cross into our box is either a chance or a goal for the opposition. How do 1% govern 99% comes on and says, how bad was Nisbet, McGarry, and not to mention our midfield duo, Nielsen and Shinnie? I thought, yeah, okay. Kaiser, who's not a happy chappy, I said 2 efforts at goal, both off target for a whole half. Abysmal. Kaiser's right. We should be doing so much better than that, particularly at Pittodrie. Colin Gale says, I'm disappointed by taking only 3 points on the last 15. Of course I am, but I'm still very proud of the team and their efforts so far this season. Remember, this is a 3-year project. Kaiser says, what are we achieving at the end of this 3-year plan? I keep hearing about it. What about a plan for the 24-25 season? It's a good point. Can't be bothered said, worried about the lack of game time for Palaversa, hinting that the option on him won't be taken up. "37 London makes a great point. He says, this season, 70% of our goals have been in the second half. Why can't we get started earlier? Also, sorry to say, but Nisbet is no sort of threat at the front and should not be starting." Kaiser comes back and says, Nisbet needs service. He's not like Miovski that can create chances for himself. He had absolutely nothing to work with yesterday. VK, I take your point, but I think that's a little bit harsh. Basically, he said most fans didn't turn up either. So in regards to the attendance yesterday, which was the lowest of our season so far, let's take a few things into consideration here. So first and foremost, so that you fully understand my thinking on this, never, ever, ever would I ever go at any Aberdeen fan for not going to a football match. Because to be quite honest, it's absolutely none of my business why they can't go. There would be a number of reasons why fans can't attend football matches. And I also think that fans that don't go to football matches and can't shouldn't have to justify why they don't go. I think that's a nonsense. I saw a guy the other day who put online that he bought a season ticket for the first time in a number of years, and folk came on and had a go at him. And I'm like, really? Why are you having a go at him? He's just bought a season ticket. He's dedicated himself to the team, to the club. He's made a financial commitment. This time of the year, when we all know how difficult it is. The weather, look at the weather yesterday. It was appalling. It was awful. I don't get it. I don't get it. For those that turn up, amazing. Brilliant. You know, you guys are sensational. And I will sing from the rooftops about it for the rest of my days. But I will also protect fans that don't go because there'll be a reason why they don't go. I can't go to football matches. I would love to go to Pittodrie every 2 weeks. But I can't because I live in Austria. And that's a life choice. I watch every bloody game. Kaiser said the weather was awful. Oh, sorry Kaiser, I'm coming back to you. The comments just kicked on. Hang on. He says a lot of season ticket holders never bothered going yesterday. Just look at the empty seats in the main stand. It's not that I don't think they could be bothered. How do 1% govern 99% makes a very good point. He says a lot of bus routes yesterday were cancelled. Sorry. Shut up. Paul C. Riki says we have gone from a 45-minute team to a 25-minute team. That's a very good point. A very good point. Maybe this break has come at the right time. Paul Donaldson says, a really poor performance yesterday, and I'm sure the players will be well aware with the fans' reaction at full time that it wasn't good enough. Neil Strachan is on. Hi Neil, how you doing? He says, do you think we Aberdeen need a proven goal scorer in January? I think we Aberdeen do need a proven goal scorer. Come on the Dons. I completely agree. I think there'll be a couple of changes come January because, let's be honest, we need them. Neil says, we've had a very poor few weeks, but booing the team is not the way to go. Suze on said she missed the game yesterday, but she saw the fallout on X. Come on, it's not a disaster, surely. Paul Herd says the big difference between earlier in the season and now is not having the energy and constant running of Mackenzie and Devlin. Devlin, having been away with 2 Scotland camps, is cream crackered. Paul Hannon is on. Hi Paul, how you doing? He says he's wishing everyone a good evening. Saturday wasn't great, but not a defeat. Milne was man of the match for me. The rest they were either exhausted or lacked focus or overtired. Sheep on Fire is just reminding everybody that since July we've played 22 games and lost only 3. It's hardly a disaster, he says. Dave B says, good evening everybody. I think JT left Nisbet on to see if a longer stint on the pitch may have given him time to get chances. That said, I think it's becoming obvious that he's not the answer. Peter Byrne says energy levels have dropped and the team is getting played through too easily. Never agree with booing the players, but they pay their money and are entitled to do it. That's absolutely fair enough. Of course, I have no issues with that. You are entitled to do it because at the end of the day, you do pay your hard-earned money to go to the games. I just think it doesn't help. That's all I'm saying. Christopher Mainland said, starting to see the need for more depth in the squad. Players are looking tired, but pretty sure it will come right. Jimmy has a 3-year plan. Overall, ahead is schedule, I would say. Okay. I think it's Danaj. I hope I've pronounced that correctly. Danaj. Thank you for coming on. You're more than welcome. I was really disappointed with the atmosphere. The performance wasn't good enough, but I feel like fans were on the team's back within about 15 minutes of the same starting. Sandra McPherson says, why are they scared to shoot? I suggest that they watch that screamer Willow Flood scored against Hibs on repeat until they learn. You can do it, lads. Just need to trust in the final kick. Raymond McCombie says, the team needs your support now, not booing at half-time and full-time. It's embarrassing. Keep going, Dons. I believe. Thanks, Andrew. Got your point. Thank you, fella. So Kaiser came back to say, and again, I take your point, Kaiser. He says, we've got to let the players know that that sort of performance is not on. Thus going round the park after a poor display that's got to stop makes us look right amateur. Now, Kaiser, it's not often that I disagree with you, but I'm going to disagree with you on this point. The reason that the lads go round the pitch is because they're showing appreciation for your support. That's why they do it. I understand that sometimes after a bad defeat, particularly after a bad defeat or a bad performance, I'm also one for thinking, get off the park. Just get off the park. Get into that dressing room and get your absolute doing from the boss. But I think on occasions, it's absolutely right to go round the stadium and applaud the fans. Because all you're doing is you're just showing your appreciation for them and your appreciation for their support. And I think that's a good thing. Peter Byrne says, a 3-year plan is okay, but next year there will be European games to deal with, and that will push the squad to its absolute limit. Barry Cool is here. Hi, Barry. Let's put this performance behind us and move on. The rest will do as good, and let's come back stronger against Hibs. Need to get a settled team. Can't be bothered makes a good point. He says, surely if the players are eager to take the plaudits, they also have got to accept criticism. I have no problem with the fans showing their disapproval when a performance like that is dished up. Dave B says, Nielsen has given away a few goals by losing possession when he shouldn't. We should give Dante and Ante a go. I think we'll start to see that change coming. I hope so anyway. Simon Roy is on, wishing everybody a good evening. Barry Cole came back to say Palaversa was class when he came on. He needs to start more games. His passing is class. Simon Roy says we need a centre-back and a striker in January. Wonder if Millwall will call Nisbet back. I think Jamie needs to sit on the bench. He looks fatigued. I've got to be honest with you. I think Jamie also needs a rest. Jamie McGrath. I don't think Jamie's been at it for weeks now. Andy B says, great energy from Jack Milne yesterday. Mackenzie's a big miss, linking play up, down the left and supporting. St Johnstone were actually very good. Fair play to the new manager. Yeah, Sequentia, thank you for that. I don't know what's going on there. I'm doing my best with it, mate, but thank you for pointing it out. Notoria said, the most frustrating thing for me is just the lack of shots. The weather was terrible. Why aren't we pinging shots constantly at the goalie? It's a very good point. Bruce Strother says, agree that Palaversa is class and should be starting games. Also need a number 9, Nisbet never fit, and Sokla is more of an impact sub. Thank you for all your positive comments on Andrew's analysis tonight. Delighted that you're enjoying it. Barry Cole's just reminding everybody that Pape will be back in January, hopefully. Cammy Fraser said, fans can boo if they want. Of course they can, mate. Of course they can. I wouldn't personally, but that's just my preference. Susan's asking, I wonder who we're going to sign in January. Cammy Fraser came back to say he missed the game in Edinburgh. Missed sod all by the sounds of it. You did, mate. Robin Hall, in regards to Dante, he said that he wasn't fit. So they're very careful bringing him back, which is absolutely the right thing to do. Barry Cole's reminding everybody how well Ross Doohan did again yesterday. I thought he was brilliant again. Gareth Harmon says, disagree with you, Ali, on Saints being good. I thought they were poor and only played in one way. We got joy down the wings when we used them, but just didn't do enough of it. John Moore says, this is all just because we were so close to Celtic, with Rangers so far behind. The tables have turned and fans are finding it frustrating as we can play much better. I agree. Gosh, there's so many of you on tonight. It's absolutely brilliant. Musical Box said that St Johnstone looked very nervy at the back, but we didn't exploit it. Musical Box, again, to me, it's you're absolutely spot on. It's such a simple point, but it's very prevalent. Our basic passing is just not good enough at the moment. Neil Simpson said, we were a disaster last season, and now since June, July, Yimi has revitalised the club, and now we have expectations from nowhere. Everybody needs to calm down and be patient. Jimmy will find a way. Robin Hall says, those statistics about set pieces were interesting. We really need to improve. We do. I was getting so wound up yesterday with our set plays. Just either not beating the first defender or overhitting it or not putting it into the dangerous area. You know, a couple of you here have said how, you know, about the height of Ruby. And when he goes up, he's absolutely no threat whatsoever when he goes up there, considering he's 6'4". Barry Cole is saying, let's hope we can find some quality in the January window. Musical Box said the break should give us a chance to reset and regroup. Right, guys, we are done. Paul Herd quickly, he says, my biggest frustration and concern is now seeing unable to play through the lines and resort to kicking it long. Yeah, that's what we resorted to on Saturday, and it was frustrating. Right, guys, so obviously there's now a wee break in proceedings. So I have an idea for a show that I'm going to try and present and produce in the coming days. So please keep your eye out on that. I've got a couple of ideas floating in my head to try and bring you some content while we've got this little mini break. But the usual drill, we'll be back for the preview show ahead of the Hibs game, review show after that game. So keep an eye on the socials for this wee show that we'll definitely do in the next few days. So have a fantastic week. Stay safe, because I know the weather's playing havoc at home at the moment. And I hope you're all well. And I'll see you all very soon. Stand free.